Hello again, and welcome back to the Domesticated Nature channel. Once again, my name is Ben. Thank you for joining me. Today I'd like to make a video on the soil needs of plants and different types of soil that they may need. I'm only going to focus today on indoor plants soil, not outdoor. If you would like me to make a video on outdoor soil types and amendments to those soil types, please feel free to comment at the end of this video, and I can do that as well. Soil provides many different purposes for plants. First and foremost, it provides anchorage for the plant's roots, which therefore is stability for the plant's body. Soil also provides oxygen. What oxygen does is it essentially breaks down sugars and releases energy for the plant. It provides water by holding moisture for the plant. Water also helps to cool the plant when it's too warm. It also helps to bring in nutrients and obviously photosynthesis for the plant. And like I said, with water, it also helps to cool, so it can increase or decrease the temperature based on how overheated or underheated the plant is. And then the most important part, it supplies the plant with nutrients that it needs to survive, different fertilizers and things of that nature. So what I have today is a few different types of potting soil for indoor plants. These aren't all of them, obviously. These are just some. So I just kind of wanted to basically walk through these today. These different types of potting soils range from ones that can hold a lot of moisture right on down to ones that allow for really good drainage so that plants don't sit in moisture, which could rot their roots. Starting with the most absorbent, you have peat moss. Peat moss is extremely absorbent, and when you water it, it's basically like a sponge, and it will retain a lot of water. A lot of plants don't like being soaked in a lot of water, so if you use peat moss, a lot of times you'll have to add something to increase drainage, and I'll touch on that in a minute here. Then there are other specialty potting soils like African violet, which is specifically formulated for African violets and cyclamens and other types of flowering plants. So if you ever have any of those, like I said, African violets or cyclamens, I would recommend this African violet mix. It's a good mixture. And then you have the cactus mix. Cactus mix is really good for palms and cacti. I use that on several of my palms that I have, as well as my Christmas cactus, and they seem very happy with it. What cactus potting soil does is it allows for good drainage, because things like cactuses will absorb their moisture pretty quickly when you water them, and then after that they don't want any more moisture because they've got what they need, so you need the rest of it to just drain past so the roots don't rot. Another type of potting soil is the orchid potting mix, which is kind of buried in there, but that's another potting mix that's specifically formulated for things like orchids. Essentially what that is a combination of different types of bark and rotting forest matter. In the fact that it is rotting, it's essentially compost, which is good for basically any plant. So a lot of times what I will do whenever I replant anything, generally what I will do is I will mix peat moss with the orchid potting mix. I feel that it makes a really good combination. The peat moss will retain the moisture, and the orchid potting mix will help allowing oxygen and water to flow past. I would not recommend mixing it 1-to-1 because the peat moss is really overpowering. I would put a lot more orchid bark in, maybe 3 or 4 to 1. with the peat moss, because the peat moss does a really good job of retaining moisture, so you definitely don't want to go 1-to-1 with it. But that is my potting soil of choice whenever I plant something new, because pretty much any plant needs good drainage but yet wants the moisture around its roots, so that's a pretty good 1-2 punch between those two. There's also green moss, which really isn't a potting soil. It's mainly like a garnish for on top of the potting soil. Again, it's more of like a sponge, or in this case, this is kind of like a way to dress up the pot that you have your plant in. So, and then, like I said, there's more than this. There's perlite and vermiculite, which help with drainage. Perlite is actually a volcanic glass that forms naturally and helps to increase drainage and allow water to flow by, and vermiculite is pretty much the same thing. It's not a volcanic glass, it's a mineral, but at the same time it allows for good drainage. And there are other different types, but these are just some of the ones that I use. And the last one I wanted to touch on here was acidic planting mix. Now obviously there's different brands. There's Miracle-Gro and there's Schultz. There's different kinds of different brands of potting soils, but this is the one that I found that makes an acidic planting mix. It's called Green Planet Naturals. I got this off of Amazon. Now certain types of plants like an acidic mix as opposed to an alkaline mix. To my knowledge, there's really no plants that like a very alkaline or basic mix, but there are a few that like acidic. Some of those plants that like an acidic mix are lilies of the valley, azaleas, rhododendrons, certain types of pines, and even potatoes like acidic soil. I bought this specifically for my azalea when I got it, and it has been doing just wonderful. So that's another thing to look into when you research your plants, is the acidity of the potting soil that they need to survive. So like I said, these are just a few of the many different types and a few of the many different brands. I've had luck with every single one of these brands, so I can't see that one is any better than the other. They're all good. So I basically just wanted to touch base and explain to you the different types of potting soils. In a future video, I'd like to actually replant a plant and show you guys how I go about doing it. But in this video, I just kind of wanted to touch base with the different types. So, again, thank you for watching the Domesticated Nature channel. I appreciate it. Please feel free to comment. And like I said, if you'd like me to do an outdoor soil video, I can do that as well. So, feel free to comment. Again, this is Ben. Thank you. See you later.